I thought, but, and then in that space, God said, well, son, it's always you and me. And, I always know how to steer you to be free. Amen. So God gives us strength and he gives us power to move in this hour. I want to talk to you tonight very briefly about rejection is not a reflection of God's love for you. I used to, as a young lad, struggle with rejection. There's all kinds of rejections, and sometimes they can come from your spouse or your mate. You understand what I'm saying? It could come from the job. I remember as a young lad when I gave my life to the Lord working down there, and one of the things as a butler and the captain, they would have a special. And the special, you would have to pair it up with different wines and things of that nature. Well, I couldn't sip on the wine. And now I know this is not very popular tonight because saints, I don't want to say saints, people argue with you about drinking wine. I'm not trying to get into a debate with you. I'm talking about something personal. Ushaba. Yeah, I didn't talk about you couldn't drink wine. I was just talking about me. You understand what I'm talking about? And so that's where I was, and that's what I went through at that particular time. God delivered me from wine and the grape. And that's just where I was back there them 30 years ago. And it was just what I did. And so because of that, I stood out. And I may have been rejected by my superiors, Ushaba, and even in some cases, friends that I had for a long time. You understand what I'm saying? But thanks be unto God that the rejection is not a reflection of God's love for you. It's a reflection of the creation, Ushaba. See, you can get a nice automobile, or you can go get you some nice kicks or pumps or bags or suits or ties, whatever have you. You can even get you a new weave or whatever it is. You understand what I'm saying? You go get your hair done a certain way, clip the cut. You get them ends tapered and whatever, hanging on. You understand what I'm talking about? And because of your appearance, you're just rejected. And then there are those that will reject you just by the way you speak. You ain't got to say nothing. Under the Osaya, and you're rejected. Under the Osaya. But know tonight that your rejection or the rejection or that rejected you is not a reflection of God's love for you. God said that I love you, son. Ashabo. I place my spirit in you. Under the Osaya. And I want you to know tonight you can make it because you love Oshaba. Let me just talk to you for a while. I remember a while ago, I found myself, or even as a young man, I found myself staring aimlessly. I found myself staring aimlessly into a distance. I've been talking lately about I've been talking about my father passing and feeling numb, and so I found myself staring aimlessly in a distance or feeling dazed as I tried to control my out of control thoughts. The enemy, some of the greatest battles that you ever have to overcome are the battles in the mind. The enemy speaks to the mind and thoughts, and he comes up with all kinds of ideals and all these kind of things. And that's why I love when Bishop Mason would pray. He would say something like, cast the devil out of my mind. And when he would say, cast the devil out of my mind, let me tell you something I got a hold of me, and it was like a practice. And so, I had to learn how to control my thoughts with my hands neatly folded behind my head or my lap. I wrestled with the feeling of rejection and abandonment. It's nothing like when you come home and everybody's gone. It's nothing like I remember as a young lad something that always bothered me. Look, I'm going to give you some scriptures, but I got to teach somebody and help somebody tonight. I'm reminded about 20, 25 years ago. I remember one Sunday May not have been that old, close to it, but I remember one Sunday going to the altar under the Diosaya, and I remember none of the intercessors would pray for me. Ushabo, one even had the nerve to say, "You of all people don't need prayer." I just felt so rejected under the Diosaya. I thought anywhere I could go, I could get prayer under the Diosaya. I didn't understand the young man, Oshaba, because I know that I can only live with air, so I breathe like he does. And I tell you, if you take a razor and you press it against my thumb or my arm under the Diosaya, you better believe I'll bleed too. I'll bleed right out under the Diosaya. What am I saying? I'm nothing but a mortal under the Diosaya. Oh, bless his name. And at times we all need something under the Diosaya. But it's sometimes you go for some things that you need in the wrong places, and that's because you created different under the Diosaya. We all have the same mechanisms under the Diosaya, but we all choose to use our will and deposit our will differently. It's just like you getting paid, and we both work on the same job, and some of you take your funds and you may go to the speakeasy, you may go to the corner bar, you may go buy 100 lottery tickets. You know I'm talking about it. And sometimes you play the numbers. Oshaba. Sometimes I don't know what you're doing, but you're spending that money, and then under the video side, then that guy next to you takes and he deposits all of his funds in the bank account, and so he gave up the will of the other thing, and he did this, and so we're all created the same, but then God does special things with some of us under the Diosaya, and it causes us to be just a little bit different. You understand what I'm saying? And so at those times I longed, I felt that rejection and abandonment, and I longed to feel accepted and affirmed, Oshaba. Though in this place I felt like nothing more than an outcast, Oshaba. They looked at you funny no matter what. I used to have a lot of hair. I cut my hair off, and then I grew facial hair, and I took that off. And so I was always making changes to myself because I was just trying to fit in under the Diosaya. I wore suits every day, and I don't think I wore the same suit maybe for 2-3 months. You understand what I'm saying? That's just every day I had on a different suit, Oshaba. And God changed that under the Diosaya. I didn't like the attention. I thought that it was intimidating. I wanted people to be able to fit in. I wanted to be able to fit in with people. You understand what I'm saying? And so I went to jeans and cowboy boots and custom shirts. That was this what I said, well, I can fit in with the businessman with this, and I can fit in with just anybody. It was in between. You understand what I'm saying? And that didn't work under the Diosaya. And I had a partner, Dorinda. She said to me, let me tell you something. She said, when you walk into a room, she said, there's an aura about you that just demands attention. And she said, there's nothing that you can do about it. She said, you'll never have to worry about people with money taking advantage of you because you look like money. You act like money. You understand what I'm saying? And so that helped me deal with who God made me to be. In this moment, there were times that I wrestled with what someone's common, which was something that was common, something that just, if you complimented my shoes, I had to say yours were better. I didn't know how to deal with it, yet entirely degrading a set of questions. I got a set of questions that were in my mind. Why don't I fit in with these people? Why do they put me out to be different under the Diosaya? I remember thinking, what makes me so different anyway? Oshaba. Maybe if I change my communication style or tell them my interests under the Diosaya or become more like them, I'll fit in under the Diosaya. Oh, bless his name. While grappling and rambling on with this and with these feelings and loneliness and rejection and heartbreak under the Diosaya. My God, I struggled to accept the way Jehovah had made me. I couldn't understand it. Sure, I often quieter than my peers because I don't speak a whole lot. You understand what I'm saying? I'm quiet. You're not going, I just look. I'm quiet. I'm very observant. I've always been that way. But that doesn't mean my opinion carries less weight because I don't say a whole lot. And yes, I overreacted to exciting news and events, whether it was a basketball game or a football game, or somebody was preaching, and that word got a hold of me. I get excited, when those things happen. I love the word of God, or it's something with worship and this and that going on. But that doesn't harm anyone or anything. It didn't mean anything. In order to fit in and become more likable, I began to alter and defining my characteristics. Shabbat. I lost sight of my God-given strengths and perhaps most importantly lost sight of God who created me. I gave in to my overwhelming feelings of rejection. I gave into what I was feeling. And so I wanted to alter myself. Have you ever felt this way? I'll ask the question, have you ever felt like I just want to do something different? I just, and then it's even gets worse. Shabbat. If you're single and you're looking for a spouse or a mate or a companion, you'll find yourself compromising the things of God. God help us. Lord, quicken thy me in your word. And so you compromise. And you'll come to the knowledge, I'll save you a couple months, a year. I'll save you a divorce or a separation. Let me tell you something. No two people can walk together, not unless they agree. I'm telling you right now, God puts things and people together. And let me tell you something. All that other stuff, Shabbat, you can walk hand to hand, but if God hasn't put you together as man and woman, Shabbat, let me tell you, it won't last. Shabbat. If God didn't put you in that business or in that job, you can love it all you want, it won't last. Shabbat. You can't compromise to fit in. I can't compromise my faith by being a bartender. Shabbat. Now, if God called me to be a bartender, that's what I'm supposed to do. But for me, you just can't fit in. Shabbat. And so, it's like you have ever felt the way of like being a foreigner at home or a stranger in your own place of work or a visitor among your own friends. When you go in their house, you don't feel welcome. There's something in the air that seems like I'm just not fitting in. It's just not comfortable. Now, you didn't go in there with any ideal of it being different or uncomfortable, but there was something there. Maybe it was what was going on before you got there. Maybe it is what's going on when you leave. Oh, bless his name. And then you can understand. I'll even go back. I think it was about a year ago. I went to an event of a real good friend of mine's, and I was just doing it because, oftentimes they would always ask me to come to these places and these events, and he happened to be a friend for about 40 years. And so I went to this event and I made sure that I got there and got a little bit of everything that they had to eat. I didn't really want to eat, but I knew if I said that I didn't want to eat and all I said was, listen, I really don't care to eat, but all I really wanted to do was show my presence, Shabbat, because you invited me. And see, because God does all kinds of things with me. I may want to go somewhere and God says, son, I want you to fast, Shabbat. Son, I need you to pray. I need you to worship. So things change. And, when you're dealing with common people, listen, they're not able to adjust to the plan and purpose of God. But it's the sacrifice that God is calling you to, Shabbat. So it's imperative that you or behooves you to pay attention. And guess what? Obey God under the Osiah. See, because that stuff it'll trickle down to something negative. And so I went to the event, and it got back to me that after I left, there was a conversation about Zuri. There was a conversation about I had this really nice shirt. It's a unique shirt. Everybody